Take a deep breath. Know that you are loved. Take a deep breath. Know that you are loved. Breathe. You've arrived at the Evolving Lover podcast. This transmission is brought to you by the Online University of Love and Sexuality. We would love you to receive all of our podcasts and videos at www.uls.online. Now, here is your host, the funny, thoughtful, and loving Steve Burford. Enjoy.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another Evolving Lover podcast. We're at number 135, and I'm super excited to have Ita O'Brien on. She is on a mission to ensure everyone on film and TV set is in a safe and protected and clear about what they can and can't do on set. And one of the series she has worked on is the Netflix series Sex Education. And Sex Education is something that I've been really obsessed with, and I don't really obsess over Netflix series, to be honest. But this one opened my heart and gave me so much joy. And I'm just honored to be speaking to Ita today about her work. And she's worked on many others for HBO, BBC, and Warner Brothers. So Ita, it's great to have you on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, thank you. Yeah, I've had a couple of lovely interviews in the last couple of days for some very exciting projects coming up.
Nice. Yeah, so this intimacy on set has been going a few years. I had heard about it for a while, and then with watching Sex Education, I saw your credits come up, and I knew how to get in touch to talk about this, because it's, for me, and I think for everyone, film and TV, they have such a drastic influence on the sociological imprint of sexuality. And not only that, but the actors at these studios and so on, they are lacking this sex education that we've all kind of missed. So how did you get involved in this in the first place? How did your life just culminate in coming into this? I would love to know.
So yeah, that journey has been completely mad, and I feel I've been guided, and you talk about all paths leading to this. So the work very much developed. My journey in the profession is I've been a musical theatre dancer. And then I trained as an actor, worked as an actor for 8 years, and then I did an MA in movement studies, and have worked for the last 12, 13 years as a movement teacher and a movement director. And then in that time, I also wrote my own work and put that on. And then I was looking at taking that work that I did further, and I wanted to do a devised piece looking at the dynamic of abuse in our society, looking at the flip side of the perpetrator and the abuser, and how very often there can be the same flip sides of the same coin. I'm talking with a lady who set up what's called the Forgiveness Project. And in my intention to start doing that work, I was thinking, how do I keep my actors safe while asking them to explore this dynamic? What practices and principles do I need to put in place to have a really clear rehearsal room, to have connection, presence, open communication, to be able to step into the work in a really present and professional way, and then at the end of the day to really reset, let go of whatever has been explored, so they leave the space in a really healthy way. And that was the beginning of exploring this work. And while I was doing that, I was talking to one of my colleagues, Meredith Dufton, who's the head of movement at Mountview. She said, please come and teach what you're developing, because I have to do intimate content with my students. Invariably, the physicality doesn't tell the right storytelling. And then when I say to them what they do need to do, she said, I'm aware that there's no structure or professional way in which they can portray this in a good way. Please come and teach what you're developing. So that was the beginning. And that's April 2015. And then that meant that I was able to hone the work, develop how I taught the work, and then create the intimacy on set guidelines, which I drew together. The first time I presented them was to the Personal Managers Association, which is the group of agents in London, in June 2017. And then I was talking to Equity in the summer of 2017. And then Weinstein happened in the October. And of course, suddenly, the first group was Vicky Featherstone at the Royal Court, bringing her no grey area day together and creating codes of conduct and saying, we now have to do better. We have to work with respect across the board. And then within that, I was there to say, and this is how, within that sense of respect, open communication, transparency. This is a structure in order to do the intimate content well.
And the core of those teachings that you're bringing to the set, I know consent is at the forefront of those, that being a massive problem just in society and on sets. So consent, is that the main thing that you worry about? What are the other things alongside consent?
Actually, before consent has to be open communication and transparency. Mm-hmm. So I think that, that is the overarching umbrella. That's what you put in place first. So clear communication across the board, right from the get-go, from producers, writers, through to directors with the actors, and then within that, and as intimacy coordinators, that's the first thing that we invite, and then within creating the intimate content, putting in the structure that allows for agreement and consent of touch. And what's really important is that before now, if an actor ever said no, they would be concerned about ever saying no, because they'd be, it has been that if ever they said no, they'd be considered to be a troublemaker, a diva, and certainly be concerned about being asked back to do their, to be acting on this production. And what we've flipped is actually saying, within the agreement and consent of touch, if we're asking you what's okay of your private and intimate body to be at play, we really want to clearly know where's your no-go areas, where is your no, so that we can really clearly and professionally and freely and openly work with everywhere that you have said yes to. And unless the no can be present, we can't really trust the yes. So that's been a big shift, and joyfully the industry is embracing that. And then the last thing is then clear choreography, so that you're not just leaving someone to then improvise, because you might talk clearly, you might agree you can touch me there, you can't touch me there, but then equally you don't just want to say and now just go for it, because again in that situation someone might be something might happen the way that they're touched, some physicality that isn't within someone's agreement and consent. So then the last thing is choreographing clearly. And then they can be free then to act their socks off, because they know everything that's going to happen, and their safety, and then within that safety there's freedom.
I mean, all of this was at play. An example of the Sex Education, the Netflix series. I was watching it, I was like, oh my, this is how it should be. This is how everything should be in terms of the way those scenes were done, and just the narrative going throughout the whole thing, variety of characters, the different problems with sex coming up. It's just such a beautiful piece of work. And what was that like for you to work on in those sex scenes?
So working with the whole producers, everybody at 11 Films, John Jennings, Ben Taylor, it's just been a really delightful collaboration. They called me in. They were in fact the very first production that actually officially employed me as an intimacy coordinator. And for me, I'd spent 3-4 years teaching the work, and had a couple of situations where I'd shared the work in theatre and a little bit on film, but this was the first time I was employed as an intimacy coordinator. And yeah, we were absolutely on the same page, going, the narrative in this is so important. We want to have this really frank and open, portrayal of sexual exploration, sexual partnerships. And again, how, we all know that actually, particularly as teenagers, most of our experiences are probably not so good, because we're not practiced, we don't know what we're doing, and to show all of that. And I too, on myself, I have two young sort of teenagers stroke adults. So I was very aware of all the storylines and the issues and the narrative that my children were coming back with about sort of their friends opening up into their sexual awakening. And so the first series, I was so grateful. It was very much that we were working out together how I've got a clear structure of this work, but how does this work within the flow of a production? And we very much work clearly, and as it's been highly documented that I said to them, the best thing that I can do for this production, and particularly your young cast, is to just run the workshop as I do in the drama schools, as I do in the profession, so that everybody across the board, the production, the directors, first, second, third ADs, script supervisors, understand the process of the guidelines, put it into practice, and then it means that once we get on set that it's understood what the journey is to really, as I said, open communication, consent, and choreographing clearly. and that's what we did, and that sort of set up the whole production and helped to bond, I think, the core actors, and then from there, then we were able to start creating the work in a really beautiful and professional way.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're putting a beautiful touch and a voice to these works like Sex Education and the other ones you've worked on. One of the voices that came through with that particular series, I felt, was that of female pleasure, and that being allowed to be seen on screen with Amy's scene, and just generally throughout the series, that was really carefully taken note of. I know it's quite a female-orientated writing team. So how was that in terms of doing that self-touch scene with Amy? And also, was it one of the series that has more female pleasure at the forefront? Are you noticing that more, or is that just a one-off?
So as far as other productions, I feel there's, I've had the joy, I can't believe at the Oscars and the BAFTAs this year that there was no female directors or writers nominated, because my experience of the last 18 months is working with so many amazing female writers, female directors, even female DOPs. And so within female writing, then there's more of an exploration of female sexuality, female pleasure. So I know that it's out there, and I know that the productions are exploring this subject matter, and it's just will take time for that to ripple into, sort of finally coming through and being, recognised at those kinds of awards. But yes, that's the scene with Amy, or her storyline in particular. I knew we discussed how important it was going to be. We knew how important it was to really explore that in a really positive way, and also just to really help and protect Amy in the performance of that, and what we were going to do in order to really help her be character and have physicalities and rhythms and everything in place, so that she had a clear structure, so that she felt could really give herself to the character and never felt exposed as to who she was personally and privately. And that's actually really important. When you're doing an intimate scene with another character, you can really focus on what's the intention, what's this character in relationship with this other character, and you've got the other character to work with. When you're by yourself, it's even more important to really step into character. So because it could be easier just to fall back on who you are in your personal and private expression with yourself. So we really looked at that to keep Amy safe, but we also knew what an important scene it was going to be. And I met up with Amy last year when she was performing at the National, and she was saying, I get about 100 texts every day from women saying thank you. And I went straight to Ireland, and I was teaching the work at one of the drama schools in Ireland, and a student came to me and she said, that scene has changed my life. And you just go, it's just so beautiful. It's so fantastic that we were able to just really have a scene, and with Kate Herron's amazing direction, that sent such positive affirmation out there. And also the fact that it's done in a really real way, in a raw way. It's not glamorized or anything. And so I'm really proud of being part of the production that helps to send that message out into the world.
Yeah, I mean, it made me, watching it, I was like, okay, I've done a lot of work myself in the last 8 years to try and make some cultural impact, but a scene like that or a series like that, I was like, I think I should become a scriptwriter or something.
Yes, yeah.
I actually did study scriptwriting at university. I just haven't done it. I have contacted 11 productions to see if they would take me on as just as some work experience would be awesome.
Yeah, keep trying. Don't take no for an answer.
I'll keep going. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely got some. I was going to ask you what. I'll probably answer the question first from my point of view, but I'll give it to you afterwards. My question at the moment is, what would you like to see in the future of sex scenes in TV and film? From my point of view, I mean, they can't go far wrong from having someone like yourself or one of your team on these sets to create scenes like in Sex Education. I guess I'm actually really kind of thinking about the Sex Education series in general, but yeah, just some of the different rituals around sex. I would like to see the more of the consent and also honoring the body before sex, the heart, really honoring the heart, and having an exploration of beyond penetration, because a lot of the sex scenes are based around penetration, and I've studied sexuality for quite a while now. I've been to full body orgasm workshops, which they do Reiki kind of orgasms. I can have these 25-minute orgasms now from my partner licking my third eye and my forehead, where it feels like all my neurons in my brain are on fire. And yeah, just displaying more of a vast spectrum of what is possible within sexuality. I feel like it's beginning to start with what you're doing, and the different voices out there in the worlds of sexuality are really coming to fore, but we've still got a ways to go in the journey. So what would you like to see in this niche that you're creating? How do you see it playing out? What would you like to see?
So yeah, it's lovely. Yeah. I mean, like, your journey sounds amazing, and let's meet up afterwards, and you can teach me a thing or two. But yes, one of the productions that I worked on, the writer then said, "Brilliant! Now I know you exist. I can now really write the sex scenes that I really want to write." Mm. And that's what you want, and again, on that same production, sharing the work with one of the directors, and she started off saying, well, I do good sex scenes. And then by the time I presented the work to her, she said, actually, I realized what I've done is I have pulled back from really having the full on sex scene that I really want, because I've been trying to take care of the actors. Yes. And one doesn't have to compromise the other. If you have an intimacy coordinator supporting what the director's vision is, what the actors want, and even if the actors have a no somewhere that the director think has to be in play. For example, if it's supposed to be a passionate kiss, but someone's got a cold sore, not suitable to kiss that day. You can't get that same passion, that same communication, that same sensuality and intimacy. So we work freely with what is in play, telling the same storytelling. And so yes, once you know that actually, you can, then we just need good writing. And that's also the shift, is that, and as I've been sharing the work and on the symposiums, I invite, writers, producers, directors, blah, blah, blah. But the writers are saying, I'm saying the narrative is we are all of us, within the production, producer, director, actors, myself, we're all in service of the writing. And then the writers are saying to us, well, then we better write better sex scenes. And I said, yes, you had. It doesn't help anybody if you just say they have sex. Everybody you're pointing out is everybody has what their sexual expression, what they physically do, their energy, their communication, what parts of the bodies are erotic zones is different for every single person. And we're saying, write that, write the detail of the intimate content, and then we can honor it. And then you as a writer are getting the scenes that you want to see. And now that you know that someone can choreograph, it can just bring a professional structure. So it's a body dance that you can choreograph it clearly. Then the writers hopefully will know that actually that's their responsibility to write it better and to write it clearly. And then it means that can be honoured. So all the ideas that you're saying, and it goes across the boards, sort of, detail like the detail in Sex Education 2 about the anal douching, in the male gay sexual, play. That was something that was an education for me. And, I was in after having just read that script when it was out, and the director said to me, have we gone a step too far? And I said, it is full on, but it's so important to.
That was important. I was like, yeah, that was in. I of course knew about it, but for many wouldn't have done, and it was great.
And also it was beautiful because all the narrative, all the conversations around it were so gently portrayed and so beautifully portrayed. And that was so important. And then through to a real joyous coming together of those two beautiful men in a lovely act of love, in a beautiful act of love. And yeah, that's what you want. So now people can step up and write the work, write everything that you're suggesting.
Yeah. So it's down to the writers. I'm certainly putting myself out there. If there are any production teams or writers want help with sex scenes, I honestly think I will be one of the best in the world. No joke. So my email is steve@uls.online if you want to get in touch. So yeah, I know we are cut short for time, and I would love to speak to you for longer, but maybe another time. I really appreciate the work you're doing in the world, and I will definitely try and follow any work that has a sex intimacy coordinator or yourself working in, and yeah, keep doing that work, and it's much needed. So thank you so much. I know you offer training for people, perhaps there's actors or people just interested in this, so people can go over to
Intimacy on set and go to the training page, but also come yourself, come to a workshop, and then we can have a dialogue. That would be fantastic. And what else? Yes, and just heads up, some programs that I worked on last year that I'm really excited about and really proud to have supported the intimate content. And I feel that in each of them, there's groundbreaking intimate content. So one's Normal People, that's coming out now. Russell T Davis's Boys, that's going to be coming out. That's about the HIV epidemic in the 80s. And Michaela Cole's January 22nd. So those are three that I'm really proud.
Where can people find those ones? Are they BBC or?
Normal People is BBC Three. Boys, do you know what? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where either Boys or January 22nd. But if you look out for them, yeah, they'll be beginning to have their trailers very soon. So I feel they're really exciting and really beautiful storytelling, and the intimate content is integral to the storytelling in all of those programs. And so watch out for those.
Great, awesome. So yeah, keep an eye out for those programs, and check out Intimacy on Set if you're interested in helping Ita out in this massive transformation in the TV and film industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your interest, and let's keep a dialogue going as well.
This transmission is brought to you by the Online University of Love and Sexuality. We would love you to receive all of our podcasts and videos at www.uls.online.